I'm going to do a how-to video on disassembling the Microtech LUDT automatic knife. First thing you'll notice is that my screws are not the typical triangle head screw. I replace them with Torx head screws so I can disassemble it easier. I'll put the link to where I got the screws in the description of the video. So the first step in disassembling the knife is to open it. I like to have it open so that when I take off the handle scale, the springs don't go flying everywhere. So now all the handle screws are removed and all that's left is the pivot screw. My pivot screw is hand tightened, so I can just undo it with my fingernails. Since the actual screw is long enough, I don't put Loctite on it, because if I did so, be very difficult to take it apart by hand, and I'd have to use like a pair of pliers, and that would scratch up the screw worse than it already is. You can tell I had to get this apart somehow, so it's kind of messed up, but oh well, it's apart now and it functions awesome. So another thing to keep in mind is when you're taking this apart is to keep everything vertical. That way springs, if they do decide to fall out, they only go straight up. So now just ease it off. And if I keep pressure right here on the blade, nothing will come apart. But once I take it off, everything pops out. So there's a couple key components to this knife. First being the actual plunge. This right there, that chalice looking piece, is where the spring goes in to give the button its pushability. Also, you'll notice on the blade, that semi-circle looking cutout is where this piece interfaces. So it hooks in right there, and when it's locked, it looks like that. When you press it down though, it goes like this, and you're able to freely move the blade. When it's locked, you can't. When it's unlocked, you can. So you have a stop pin right here, and I like to remove that when I reassemble the knife. Next is the coil spring. This is not the original coil spring. My original coil spring broke. When I ordered this new one, it was only about 50 cents. The top spoke, so to speak, right there was too long, so I cut it and filed it down till it is very, very shallow. And that's because when it fits inside of this cutout on the blade, you can't have it protruding, otherwise it's going to scratch the inside of your handle. Now the other spoke of this is not too long at all. It just fits into this channel right there. So now you have the bushing. It allows the knife to be very smooth, and the pivot screw won't jiggle out of place as easily. So awesome, man, awesome machining. It fits very, very tightly with that pivot. So now to reassemble, make sure that this piece over here is tightly pressed in and it is snapped down in there. So The first step is to put the spring back inside of the push button. You can just set it right there. It'll stay there. Next, I want to put my spring inside of the channel and just drops in there like that. And then I'm going to line my hole up right there with my spoke. While I'm doing that, I'm going to take this thumb, I'm going to find my spoke, then I'm going to take this and compress it kind of. Not very far, far enough that it won't shoot out of this. So now it's locked, so to speak. It's locked right there. Sure, there's nothing to keep it going that way because the stop pin isn't in, but it's locked. And if I keep downward pressure on the blade, it's not going to move. So now I'm going to take the stop pin and reapply it while keeping pressure on the blade so it doesn't disengage. I'm going to put my other half on. Nice and easy. You don't need to force anything. It'll all snap into place. So, I'm going to tap it. Real easy. So now I can start to reassemble. I'm going to put the pivot screw in first so that I don't have to worry about it flying anywhere. So, it's back together now. And I'm going to put in the body screws. I'm not too worried about over tightening since there is no standoffs. But I'm not going to tighten them so far that the aluminum strips. These replacement screws are titanium, so they're going to be much harder and much more durable than the aluminum body they're screwing into. So be careful with over tightening for that reason. It won't really throw off your centering or anything though. So now I just want to make sure that it's properly tuned the way I want it. I'm going to tighten it up just a little bit more because I felt a little side-to-side play. And for this knife, a tiny bit of side-to-side play is normal. But if you can like hear it, then it's too much. So I've got this just where I want it. Now, make sure it fires. There you go. That is how you disassemble and reassemble a Microtech LUDT.